In the blessed name of Allah, the most merciful, the very gracious. Welcome. Take a deep breath. Wherever you are right now, just let your shoulders drop. Let the racing thoughts of the day slowly fade away. Tonight, we're going to go on a journey together. It's a mystery, a true story about the internet, human nature, and how easy it is to get lost in the dark, and more importantly, how to find your way back to the light. So close your eyes if you can, relax your mind, and listen. Okay, let's dive into this.
Act 1. The Snapshot and the Spies.
Our story starts back in 2006 with a single, completely ordinary photograph. I want you to imagine a really messy room. There's a window air conditioning unit just barely held together with duct tape. Right in the center of the room is a small twin bed. And sitting on the left side of this bed is a young man. He's wearing baggy jeans, glasses, and a t-shirt from a restaurant called Hooters in King of Prussia, Pennsylvania. He's got long hair, and honestly, he looks incredibly uncomfortable. In his hand, he's holding a can of Miller Lite beer. Now on the far right side of that exact same bed sit two well-dressed girls, and they are completely ignoring him. It seriously looks like they're existing in two entirely different worlds. Well, someone took this picture and posted it on an internet message board called ILX, and within minutes, hundreds of complete strangers became totally obsessed with it. They thought the boy looked like a lonely loser, they laughed at him. Now, some people might look at a teenager holding a beer at a party and say, oh, that's just a normal, harmless part of growing up, but the reality is actually very different. Medical science shows us that the human brain is still actively growing during those years. Alcohol is a poison. It damages memory, it clouds human intelligence, and it often leads to terrible accidents or even lifelong addiction. It's absolutely not a sign of being cool. It's a dangerous trap. And those internet users, well, they fell right into their own trap. They judged this boy entirely on his appearance. They assumed he had zero value just because his clothes were baggy and the girls were ignoring him. But the truth is, a person's worth is never found in their haircut or their popularity. True worth is built on character, honesty, and a good heart. Appearance is really just an illusion.
So the people on the internet, acting basically like amateur spies, started zooming in on literally every microscopic detail of the picture. They spotted a textbook covered in a brown paper bag. They saw a fake Coach purse sitting on the floor. They even zoomed in on some DVD movie boxes on a dresser and managed to make out the movies Old School and Anchorman. And because those movies came out in 2003 and 2004, they successfully deduced that the photo had to be taken after the summer of 2004. Since they didn't know his real name, the internet just decided to name him Wayne.
Soon after, a user named Roxy found the original webpage where the photo came from. It turned out to be a whole photo album from a party hosted by a popular young man named Deal Ryan, a soldier who actually later went to Iraq. These strangers on the internet then tracked down all the other people at the party on MySpace. They found out the girls' names were Megan and Laurel. They found friends named Tansy, Turnbull, and Bill. And finally, hidden away in a comment, they uncovered the boy's real name, Tommy Loftus. For the next 9 years, these internet strangers secretly watched Tommy's friends. They tracked their lives, watched them grow up, have babies, and move away, always hoping to catch just one more glimpse of Tommy.
You know, some people might say that tracking strangers online is just a fun puzzle, kind of like a harmless game. But the reality is, this is cyberstalking. It's deeply unhealthy. Statistics show us that victims of online stalking often feel absolutely terrified in their own homes. And beyond that, it is a tragic waste of human intelligence. Life is a short, precious gift. It's meant for doing good deeds and building real connections, not spending a decade secretly watching strangers on a glowing screen.
Act 2. The Cruel Hoax. Now what's really interesting here is that in January 2015, 9 whole years after that original photo was posted, a mysterious user logged onto the message board. Their handle was Wayne's Crew 610. They posted a message that said, "Hello, we knew you were watching us, and Tommy knew too." And then they posted 3 words that completely shocked the internet. R.I.P. Wayne.
They uploaded a new picture of Tommy at the beach, smiling, wearing a backward hat. But it was designed to look exactly like a funeral memorial card. It said he died in March 2014. It even included a famous quote, "To reach a port we must sail. Sail not tie at an anchor, sail not drift." Right below it, they claimed the quote was by the American president Franklin D. Roosevelt. The user wrote that Tommy was a really great guy and that his friends were terrible people for taking him for granted all those years. And the internet? They genuinely mourned. They cried for this boy they had been secretly watching for so long.
Well, 2 podcast journalists, PJ and Tim, wanted to know the full story. So they drove out of New York all the way down to a place called Colley's Irish Pub in Pennsylvania to find Tommy's friends. They walked into this dark, smoky bar and met Bill, Tansy, and another man they called Rupert. The friends started buying rounds of strong whiskey. They just sat there, drinking, smoking, and watching a hockey game. Then Rupert looked at the journalists with these heavy eyes and lied right to their faces. He told them Tommy had fallen into some really bad stuff. He claimed Tommy developed a terrible drug addiction after his father died, and that he, Rupert, actually got the phone call about Tommy's death while he was sitting in a jail cell.
Some folks out there might argue that making up a fake death is just a clever prank, right? Like a way to teach internet stalkers a lesson. But the reality is, faking a death is cruel psychological abuse. Death is the single most serious reality every human being will eventually face. Using it as a joke completely breaks the basic trust that holds our society together. But, as they say, the truth always reveals itself. It turns out these friends were actually very bad liars. When the journalist asked why Tommy liked that FDR quote so much, one friend immediately said, "Oh, because Tommy was a staunch Republican." But the reality is, FDR was one of the most famous Democrat presidents in history. The lie was just sloppy. And this shows us a really profound truth about life. You become the company you keep. Sitting around in dark rooms, consuming intoxicants that cloud the mind, telling deep lies to strangers, that path only ever leads to darkness.
Act 3. Waking up to reality. So, the journalists felt something was seriously wrong. They decided to go to the local graveyard. They walked around looking at the tombstones. And guess what? Tommy's name was not in the ground.
They suddenly remembered their friends mentioning that Tommy used to work for a local business called Nolan Painting. So, the journalists looked up the company on YouTube. They found a recent video of the owner talking about customer service. And right there, just casually walking in the background of the video was Tommy Loftus. He was completely alive. He was healthy. He was working. The journalist finally managed to get Tommy's phone number and gave him a call. When Tommy answered, he was completely confused. He barely even remembered that old picture. And here is the greatest twist of the entire story. Tommy didn't care about the internet at all. He had no idea strangers were obsessed with him. When his friends had shown him the fake funeral card they made, he literally just laughed. He didn't care enough to stop them.
During the call, the journalist asked Tommy about a crazy story his friends told back in the bar. They said Tommy used to be the kind of guy who would just chug a massive jug of maple syrup at a party just to make girls laugh. Tommy admitted it was actually true. Now, some people think doing crazy, self-deprecating stunts is a fantastic way to be popular, but the reality is it's really a cry for help. Psychology tells us that putting yourself down is often a way to beg for acceptance from a group. Furthermore, chugging pure sugar syrup is incredibly dangerous. It causes the pancreas to literally panic, flooding the body with insulin, leading to a severe medical condition called reactive hypoglycemia. It makes you weak, dizzy, and seriously damages your health. Earning respect never ever comes from destroying your dignity or your body. But Tommy actually figured this out. He told the journalist that a few years after high school, everything changed for him. He was driving his car on a rainy day when his brakes completely locked up. The car slid violently out of control and crashed right into a massive bus. It was horrific. When Tommy finally got to the hospital, the doctors looked at him and said a truly terrifying sentence. If you were just a little bit taller, your head would have been completely cut off.
That crash, that was his wake-up call. Because when you survive a moment like that, it's a blessing. It is the Creator giving you a real second chance. And Tommy took that chance. He realized how incredibly precious and fragile his life was. He completely changed his ways. He left that toxic high school company behind. He stopped going to those dark bars. He cut way back on his drinking. He got his body into great shape, and he focused all his energy on starting his very own painting business. He stepped fully, completely into the real world.
Act 4, the light of the real world. Towards the end of the podcast, the journalists casually talk about an old childhood memory at a local ice skating rink called the Skadium. One of them remembers this brutal, mean hockey coach who literally wouldn't let the kids drink water. He then casually mentions that this exact same coach later got arrested for a DUI, driving under the influence of alcohol. It's such a quiet, stark reminder of just how normalized bad environments can be. We so often grow up surrounded by flawed people, bad habits, and really dangerous paths.
And this brilliantly illustrates the dynamic at play here. When we look at the three distinct groups of people in this story, the internet stalkers wasted 9 years of their lives just staring at glowing screens, trapped in an illusion, gaining absolutely nothing. The friends from the party stayed stuck in the past, sitting in smoky bars, drinking poisons and telling lies. But Tommy Loftus, he survived. He walked away from all the foolishness. He chose reality. He chose health, hard work, and peace.
Because true success is not about being famous on the internet. Not at all. It's about protecting your mind and your body. It's about keeping good company, speaking the truth, and realizing the immense, truly beautiful value of the life you have been given. As you lie there tonight, let this story bring you peace. You don't need to carry the weight of the world, and you definitely don't need the approval of strangers. You only need to live honestly, in the light of the real world.
Rest your eyes now. Your mind is safe, your heart is calm, and tomorrow is a fresh, beautiful second chance. Will you step away from the illusion and into the light of the real world? Sleep well.